Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video, and today marks the beginning of some very exciting coverage. I'm currently over in Germany for Gamescom with TwoSixNine, and we've just had the chance to go hands-on with Monster Hunter World and test out all 14 different weapons. The game feels amazing, every weapon is a pleasure to use, and more importantly, I was able to record some gameplay to share with you guys. The demo we played was very similar to the E3 demo, so we are still in the ancient forest hunting either Great Jagras or Anjanath, but in truth I'm completely fine with that because it allowed us to focus more on the weapons. That being said, there are a few extra additions, a new mantle, charms are in, and also some cool Palico stuff, all of which you'll see very soon. Over the course of the next few days, I'm going to be uploading individual videos for every single one of the 14 weapons, give you guys a look at some of their moves, how they've changed, and of course, the weapon in action. Do however bear in mind that we only had limited time with each weapon at the show, so I will of course be doing an in-depth weapon workshop style tutorial for all the weapons once the game launches next year, as I did with previous Monster Hunter games. But for the time being, this should give you a good idea as to what the weapons can do and how they play and have changed in World. If you do enjoy the video, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below, let me know what you guys think, and also let me know what weapon you guys want to see next. Now, to kick things off, we're going to start with my personal favourite weapon, the Charge Blade. To begin with, for those of you that are new to the series, Charge Blade is probably the most complicated weapon there is. It's both sword and shield, and also an axe. Plus there's an inbuilt file management system, where you store charged energy in your shield, which can then be transferred into your sword. That's new in Monster Hunter World, by the way. However, just because it's a little more complex, don't let that scare you, because Charge Blade is also one of the most fun and versatile weapons out there. Thanks to the morphing nature of the weapon, you can use it in a number of different ways, and the strong shield also gives you great defensive capabilities. In short, it's a badass weapon. So, let's go over some of the basics. In Monster Hunter World, you can open up your Hunter Notes in the menu, and you have a handy move list for your weapons. Now, this isn't the complete move list, this is just a few handy options to get you started. Of course, in the top right hand corner of the screen, you also have some button prompts. Now, these can be turned off, for those of you guys asking, but I did leave them on since they're pretty useful to look at in the demo. Anytime you press a button, the UI changes to show you what options you have next, so it's actually a great way to learn what a weapon can do if you're new. With your weapon drawn in sword and shield mode, triangle is your standard slicing attack, and you can then chain 3 hits into the basic combo that ends in a roundhouse slice. Alternatively, if you hold down circle, you have the charged double slash attack. This is great for filling up your files, and I'll speak more about that in a moment. You have the advancing forward slash when you press triangle and circle together. This is a great opener, it moves you forward, and you can then go into combos from there. And if you follow that with another triangle circle input, you can go into a shield thrust. That'll be your main file generating combo. Charge double slash into shield thrust. Something new for Monster Hunter World, and you likely will have seen this in the weapon videos I uploaded a few weeks back, there's a new slide move, or a fade slash as it's called. During a combo, if you press a direction and circle, you'll slide into this roundhouse style attack. Doing it backwards will allow you to fade back and follow up with an attack, and similar story for left, right, or even forward too. So it can be used as both a means to reposition or close the gap, as well as a means to evade out. R2 and triangle will then allow you to morph into axe mode, and then once you're in axe mode, R2 will morph back into sword and shield mode, ending in a roundhouse slash, and also a guard point. Now, guard points are something I'll have to go into more detail on at a later date, since I didn't really get a chance to demonstrate them in the short time I had with the weapon. But in essence, there are select animations where your shield is presented in front of you, and if you are hit during that, you will then guard. The window is tight, but if you have a charged shield, you can also inflict damage on the monster. But again, I'll go into that in more detail when the game launches. You can of course just hold down R to guard, so if you're in a sticky situation, then you can guard. And whilst guarding, if you press circle, this is your charge or your storing move. I mentioned files earlier. Essentially, when you're fighting a monster, every time you attack it whilst in sword and shield mode, your files begin to glow. Performing the charge move will then store the energy in the files, like so. Yellow glow will only fill some of them, but if it's red, it'll then fill them all. Plus, you need to do this anyway, because once it's red, your attacks will start bouncing if you don't store. Although, in World, there's actually 2 stages of red. There's kind of the first stage where it's like, you should probably store these now. And then after that, it glows bright red, because it's basically the game saying, yo, don't forget to store these because your moves are now bouncing and you're wasting your time. However, it doesn't end there. See, with the files charged, you can then transfer them to your shield. For this, you predominantly need to be in axe mode. Of course, axe mode has its own set of moves, a standard attack on triangle, an elemental attack on circle. With this, if you have your files filled up or stored, the attacks will dish out additional elemental or impact damage depending on the type of charge blade. You can morph back into Sword and Shield mode as previously discussed, or you can enter the Elemental Discharge move for the Charge Blade. Pressing triangle and circle together will go into this big wind-up animation that ends in a big slam. Now, it doesn't do much damage if you don't have files stored. If you do, then you can do what is more commonly referred to as an amped element discharge. This will consume your files, but dish out some damage in the process. If you only want to consume a single file, then you can pull back and press triangle during the wind-up animation, and it'll only use one, as opposed to everything you have stored. Back in the sort of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate days, we kind of typically refer to this as a super versus the ultra, which consumes all of them. However, going back to the file storing I spoke about a moment ago, once you've stored your files, if during the amped element discharge animation you instead press R2, you'll morph back into Sword and Shield mode, consume the files, and transfer them into the shield. Doing so results in this really awesome animation where you see the files empty and slide into the shield. Honestly, I absolutely love the animation. I feel like I kind of watch it all day. But at this point, your shield then glows red. Your blocks are more powerful, and your guard points dish out additional damage based on the type of charge blade you have, elemental or impact. However, it doesn't stop there. I feel like I'm describing some sort of Inception style move where we're now 3 dreams deep, but hang in there. New to Monster Hunter World is the ability to then share that shield charge and put it into your sword. If you're paying attention, you may have noticed the new addition to the UI, this little sword icon that appears next to the shield icon. See, now that we're back in Sword and Shield mode with a charged shield, if you then perform the charge move again, i.e. R2 and circle, but then hold down triangle during this animation, you will then see you go into this longer animation where you lock the sword in, and you then go into an overhead attack. The game calls this a Condensed Slash. Doing so appears to dish out some elemental charge in the blade, and following the attack, the sword icon then glows red alongside the shield. Now both the sword and shield are charged for a period of time. Now at this stage I don't have all the details on exactly what this does, after all I don't have access to motion values, but given that it's referred to as a Condensed Slash, and the main Ultra is referred to as an Element Discharge, I'm pretty sure it's like a sword equivalent of what you have on your shield, essentially allowing you to dish out either impact or element damage on hit, based on the type of charge blade you have. In this instance, the Rathian Charge Blade is Impact type, so that means you can use this sword attack to KO a monster if you do it on the head. So to recap all of that, because I appreciate there's a lot to take in, you attack the monster to build up files, you then store the energy in the files with R2 and circle. Following that, you go into Axe mode, Element Discharge, and cancel with R2 to transfer into the shield. And from there, you then go R2 and circle, and then hold triangle to go into the Condensed Slash. Now both sword and shield glow red. Pretty sweet. Do of course note that much like the charged double slash, the Condensed Element Slash can also be overcharged, so you don't want to just hold it indefinitely, you want to try and master the timing to maximise the results. Now something else I want to highlight, and this is a huge one for me, and probably a lot of you Charge Blade users out there, the Charge Blade in World is like the 4 Ultimate Charge Blade, only better. If you use Charge Blade in 4 Ultimate and Generations, then you'll know that one of the main changes in Generations was that you couldn't go directly from a shield thrust into the super animation, or the Element Discharge to use its in-game name. This was a conscious choice to try and force more deliberate axe play. In 4 Ultimate, I used the Charge Blade like a sword and shield with Ultra Discharge capabilities. You dish out the damage in sword mode, shortcut to Ultra for damage, and then back again. In Generations, you weren't able to do that. But in World, it's back. Now, depending on how you play Charge Blade, this may or may not have been important to you in the first place. But for me personally, this is an absolute game changer. This one move just makes things so much more fluid. And what's more, with the new Condensed Element Charge, you now have even more reasons to fight in Sword and Shield mode. Both modes are powerful, both modes are viable, so depending on your playstyle, there will definitely, without a doubt, be something for you here. The one change they did keep from Generations, however, and some of you guys may have noticed this from the gameplay already, but an amped element discharge, whilst it consumes your files, doesn't consume your shield charge if you have it, so this truly is the best of both worlds. Jumping back very quickly to the useful combos page, the Hunter Notes only go over the basic controls, but they do give you a few combos to get you started. Most of these we've covered, the advancing slash into roundhouse, the second one is the quickest way to transfer files to your shield thrust shortcut to element discharge and then cancel with R2, and the final one is the combo to the sword boost mode. As for the other page, this is for axe mode. There are some basic combos that work in the standard attack and the elemental attacks. Remember that you'll need to have files in order to benefit from the element discharge properly. And finally, the ultra animation I showed you guys earlier, or the amped element discharge. To get the most of it, you of course will have your shield charged and 5 full files. Doing so will of course maximise your damage potential, and just looking at it in action, it is absolutely insane. I've always loved this move, it's really cool to see it, and of course it just feels great in World. If your Charge Blade is Impact style, then this can KO a monster if it's done to the head, meanwhile if it's Element, you'll send out an Elemental Shockwave. Now, that's a brief look at some of the core moves for the weapon. There are a couple of other things I didn't have a chance to test out, namely mounted attacks and slide attacks. All weapons have a move you can do while sliding down a hill, and similarly, when the opportunity presents itself, when mounted. You can switch to your main weapon and dish out some damage, but obviously time is limited at Gamescom, so I got what I could. Of course, when the game launches next year and I make my tutorials, then I'll go over absolutely every aspect of the weapon, covering everything you need to know. But in the interim, this should at least give you guys a good idea as to what the weapon can do in Monster Hunter World. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Of course, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them down below. Be sure to keep it locked for much more weapon videos. In fact, I've got loads of stuff coming from Gamescom, lots on the weapons, but also some other stuff as well. I want to talk about the mantles, the palicos, the armor skills, all that stuff. So there is lots of stuff coming your way, so keep it locked. Plenty more to come. Thank you very much for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.